Challenges, concerns, or questions?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve the minutes.
Thank you. I have a motion by Mr. Cook, or by Mr. Kirby, supported by Mr. Cook. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes are approved. Next, we have tonight's agenda review and approval. We have 3 cases tonight. Do any board members have any concerns about this before we move forward?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we accept the agenda as submitted.
Thank you. I'll support. I have a motion on the floor by Mr. Cook, supported by myself. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. The minutes are approved. First case, or excuse me, the agenda is approved. First case is AB 2024-21, Ross Steinman at 224 Greenan Lane, Sidwell 0904 301 054. Applicant is seeking one variance from zoning ordinance 78, zoned SF, Article 27, Section 27.03, C3B2. Number 1 is a 7-foot rear yard setback variance from the required 20 feet to construct the deck, 13 feet from the rear property line to the south. Come on up, introduce yourself, and let us know what you'd like to do and why you'd like to do it.
Absolutely.
Please.
My name is Ross Steinman. I live at 224 Green Lane. We're looking to have a variance put on for a deck that we will be building for our new home. We currently have no deck at all or nothing coming off the backside of our property. So with that, we are within that boundary between our setback and our neighbor's setback. So we are looking to build a 12-foot deck, and that goes within that 20-foot variance. With this being said, this causes a bit of a safety concern for us, as we would like to utilize our backyard, but we have currently no way of getting to it without going through the front door or the garage. So we are looking to have that deck put on for a way to safely get out the back door, as that is also another safety concern is, if, God forbid, we have a fire in the house, this is an exit that we currently no longer have because you are then jumping out the back door. So with that being said, we would really like to have a deck to go safely out onto instead of steps going straight down, because again, that comes a tripping hazard if you do go running out the back door. Same goes for any home invasion, again, God forbid, or breaking and entering. This is another exit for us that we can properly use and utilize that. So, and then utilization of our backyard, again, we have no proper way to utilize it right now, except for going and walking out the garage door and walking around to the back. This would grant us the way to properly use the backyard and enjoy it. And we have a new baby coming to us, so we really want to be able to actually utilize the backyard in a proper way for us.
Did I notice that your HOA is on board with this?
Correct. Yes, they are.
And not that it means anything, any bearing on your case tonight, but are you aware if any neighbors in the area have gotten the exact same variance you're asking for?
Yes, sir. Yeah, our next door neighbor has the exact same setback as far as, the right next to it is right in between that arborvitae's between them. They have that deck, and it would be very similar to theirs. So, and they got this, I think, back in 2019 or 2020.
Thank you. Board members.
Mr. Chairman. Sir, when, Mr. Simon, when I went out there, I was looking, it had the red flags. Were those for underground, or was that your actual outline?
That's the actual outline, yeah. I put it, 12 feet by 20 feet, along with the stairs that I believe will go 8 feet exactly, so that's why I put those there.
Thank you.
Were those buildings built with the idea of having a deck back there? And set door to nowhere that's on the back of your?
I'm not sure if every single one of them were that way, intended that way. When we first bought the lot, it was through a builder called Infinity Construction, and the models that they gave for each and every one of these were raised higher, and you can see from each one of on our same street they're all raised. I don't know if that's intended or that was just truly just the way they wanted to have them built because of, they have walkouts and then we have daylight window for our basements as well. So I believe that making that elevated pitch, they can then have the, make room for those daylight windows and walkouts.
I mean, when did you purchase the home?
It was 2021,
I'm sorry, 2020?
March 2021, right? March 2022, I'm sorry.
Smart man.
I brought her. Yeah.
I have a chair for the building fish, a question for him. Can you tell, did we grant a variance to the neighboring home? So that's something we did? Please.
Yeah, and you can see the door wall was put in. And we've had this a couple other times in this area where we had this happen, that door wall, and they literally could build a 2-foot deck out of this corner. So, we did grant one.
I'm familiar with the Orion Center with a similar door. I'm familiar with all the construction that was done by Pulte and the Ball Mountain with the same issues.
We did have it.
And I'm just offended that, not at you, but at the builder for doing this sort of thing.
That's a great point. I actually brought it up with my inspectors, that when we do see this again, we're not going to approve it unless we have a variance for it. We don't want a deck to nowhere giving people a false sense of, oh, I can put a deck on there, and then they run into a problem and then we have to come in. I understand.
Yeah, yeah.
None of my comments are directed to the,
No, you're okay. Thank you so much.
I call you innocent bystanders. for this whole thing.
Sure, come on up.
Hi, Kara Steinman, wife of Ross. So when we actually built or bought our lot, it was completely flat, and the developer told us that we had to do daylight windows, and we didn't even know this was a factor or anything until, I think the day after we closed, when we spoke with our HOA and they told us about a variance. This was like all new to us, so we had no idea until we truly closed on our house. But yeah, so our land was completely flat, and it was a whole thing with the builder, because we were okay with doing daylight windows, but we were also okay with not doing them. And here we are today now with 5.5 feet off the ground, can't even utilize our backyard type thing, so.
Thank you. Mr. Kirby.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to point out that we do have a note here from the fire department. They've reviewed, and they have no concerns about this issue.
Thank you, Mr. Vasquez.
I'm prepared to make a motion unless the board has further comment or questions. In the matter of ZBA case AB 2024-21, Ross Diamond, 224 Greenan Lane, parcel ID 0904301054. I move that the petitioner's request for one variance from zoning ordinance 78, zoned SF, Article 27, Section 27.03C3BI. Number one, a 7-foot rear yard setback variance from the required 20 feet to construct a deck 13 feet from the rear property line south. Be granted for the plan stamp date received June 5th, 2024, because the petitioner did demonstrate that the following standards for variances have been met in this case, and that they set forth facts which show that in this case, that the petitioner does show the following practical difficulties. He doesn't have access to his backyard to be able to enjoy it. There are safety issues concerned here. There's a door wall, and in order to meet the current setbacks, in order to install a deck, it would be about 2 or 3 feet wide, which is totally impractical. The following extraordinary circumstances and conditions are applicable to the property. Again, safety in the event of fire, first and foremost. They're beginning a family, and they certainly need to have adequate access and ability to leave the building, in case of any kind of an emergency. Also, utilization of their yard at this point. They really don't have utilization of their art yard without going somewhere else in their home to go around the back and get to the yard. The variance is necessary for the preservation and enjoyment of a substantial property right possessed by the property, and that would again be the utilization of the yard. This will allow them to have access to the yard also with a growing family, to be able to get to their children and have their children come into the home where they can observe and watch over them. The granting of the variance or modification will not materially be detrimental to the public welfare or materially injurious to the property or improvements in such zone or district in which the property is placed.
Support.
Discussion.
Good.
Minor thing. Is your home on the lane or is it on the court?
This is a very interesting question. So our driveway goes out to the lane, but our address is technically the court. So our address is, the driveway goes out to the court. Yeah,
Good thing you brought her to correct you on all this.
yeah,
I just wanted to make sure that this was correct, the motion was correct.
yeah,
It was very confusing.
yeah, exactly, yeah. Yeah.
all of our DoorDash and Amazon is very
Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am.
I have one question for the motion maker. Did you, or if you didn't, would you consider a stipulation that their HOA has reviewed this and they're on board with what they'd like to do?
I gladly accept that.
Thank you. Anything additional by the board? We have a motion on the floor by Mrs. Zanaskis and support by Mr. Kirby. No further discussion, please call the roll.
Tony Kirby?
Yes.
Diane Danastis, yes. Don Walker?
Yes.
Tony Cook?
Yes.
Dan Durham?
Yes,
Motion passed.
motion passes, you're on your way.
Thank you so much, guys.
Good luck.
Appreciate it.
You're very welcome. Next, we have AB 2024-22, Scott Prebay at 135 Laketon Court, Sidra 09-032-452-048. Applicant is seeking 3 variances from zoning ordinance 78, zoned R3, Article 6, Section 6.04. Well, it starts with number 2, it seems like. An 18.2-foot front yard setback variance from the required 30 feet for a covered porch to be 11.8 feet from the front property line roadside. Number 2 is a 16.28 feet front yard setback variance from the required 30 feet for a second floor addition and attached garage to be 13.72 feet from the front property line on the roadside. Number 4 is a 6.21, that was 5.21, correct? Okay. That was changed before the meeting started. The third one is a 5.21 side yard setback variance from the required 10 feet for a second floor addition and attached garage to be 4.79 feet from the property line north. And before we move forward, I was looking at an older agenda. There are only 3 variances and they are numbered correctly. Applicant, step forward, please. Give us an introduction. And before you start, when I stopped in front of that property and looked and saw the layout of it, my first thought was, wow, they want to do a lot with a little. So, understanding that, please go slow and easy with us and help us get where we need to be.
Okay.
Thank you.
Debbie Jones, architect of record.
Scott Prebay, homeowner.
So we are requesting 3 variances, as you stated. The first one pertains to just basically putting a cover over where the existing front door is, which we're going to maintain that location. And it's really just to provide some protection for that front door. There's nothing there now, just a little bit of a roof. We are removing a little bit of a bump out on the front of the house. So actually this covered front area is going to be even further away from the road than that existing bump out is. So we're not encroaching any further with that. The second and third variances pertain to wanting to add a second floor addition over the existing garage, which is non-conforming. We don't intend to increase the setback encroachment at all. The intention is to go right over the existing garage on the north side and on the front side, which is the roadside. They did add in there, in speaking with Lynn Harrison at the township, we did add in there, in the event that we have to tear down that garage, we're not sure of the stability of that garage, and we won't know that until we get in there and start doing the construction. So if that, in the event that that has to be torn down, we had to have the variances for the garage as well. But the intention is to go right over the top of the existing garage. Those are the variances that we're asking for. As you can see, it's a really oddly shaped lot. The front property line meanders all over the place. We're not looking to add anything within the encroachment or within the setback on the back side of the house or on the south side of the house. It's just the north side and the road side. And also, as I stated, the existing garage, construction's a little iffy, so if we were able to do this, we could rectify that problem as well. That's a safety issue at this point.
The challenged layout of that road coming down to an end on a point like that, is it your belief that you will have any problem with cutting off sight lines of neighbors by going higher? Because sight line to the lake is always an extremely sensitive issue with people.
Well, we're adding the deck over the second floor with a pergola on top, which that will not block any view, and I don't believe we're going to be any higher than the neighboring property with their construction as it is. So we're really not going to be blocking any views there.
That would be on the left-hand side. On the right-hand side, which is
Yes.
behind us, they sit far enough back where it wouldn't impede anything.
Right. And that neighboring property to the north, their frontage of their garage is, it's like 3.11 feet from the property line, the front property line. And if you go, I'm assuming you all went up and down Laketon and Chamberlain Drive, all these houses are like right on top of the road, and there's variances, appears to be variances everywhere, which is pretty common all around the lake of Lake Orion.
We've been involved with a startling number of them.
I am sure you have.
Thank you. Board members.
Mr. Chairman. So, one of the things that I was looking at is the retaining wall as you're facing the home, it would be to the left. Is that on the property line, or is that?
At its closest point, that's the 4.7 whatever feet. At the very front corner of the garage, that's the 4.7.
No, I'm talking about the end of the wall at the road. Does it start off right on the property line?
I'll have to look at the survey for that.
Yeah, when I look at the survey, you see the yellow line that splits the two properties. It's probably about 2 or 3 feet. The marking pin is about 2 or 3 feet towards the lake.
Right, so it's,
Yeah.
trying to understand if,
Yeah.
whose
The
fence
line.
is that property on? I mean, that fence, your neighbor's fence?
Oh, that would be,
That is their fence?
that's their fence. correct.
Okay, so then that, in essence, if you draw that line out, it comes right to the corner of the property, that retaining wall. So that's,
Yeah, it looks, if you look at the survey, it looks like it's almost right on the line and maybe slightly on the neighboring property. We don't intend on doing anything with that wall, though. That's going to stay as it is.
and then my second question relates to the elevation. When I look at the existing front elevation versus the proposed, it looks like you're going to do a lot more to the road side of the home.
A lot more meaning,
Meaning like deconstruction to reconstruct, because you talked about putting basically a roof, it looks like you're tying the roof line from the garage over the front door.
Correct, we would be going over the existing roof with a new roof.
Okay. And so, you know, when this, okay. So, and you're changing the roof of the home itself, though, right? You're doing construction to the garage, building up over it, but you're also doing things to the main portion of the house.
Correct, we are updating the house as well.
Okay, gotcha. So this is how you're going to be able to provide the supports for going up, because you're doing the additional work across the entire structure.
Exactly, yes.
Okay, gotcha.
I don't know if I ever asked this question in 20 years of sitting here, but why?
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 I should probably,
If there's an answer to that question.
yeah, well, we wanted to add space, and then we also wanted to, quite honestly, keep up with the neighboring properties and increase our property value. So we have, as you probably have seen, we have a slew of mega mansions sitting in our bay, and we just wanted to give it.
You get closer to the mic, sir, please.
We're trying to do.
Sir, come to the mic, please.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, so we're trying to just add more space, living space, which in turn is going to add more value to the house, and it will actually keep up with some of the other properties as well. As you saw, there's probably a theme going in the bay. I think we were called $1 Million Bay. And, you know, we've got a pretty small house in comparison. So we're just trying to increase the value of the house and the aesthetics too.
So when did you purchase the home?
2017. And we've done a lot on the inside. We've taken it as far as we can, as far as upgrades. It started off by we have to replace all the siding in the windows. Absolutely, because it's just degraded. And the roof is not far along. And so in that pursuit, we also, when we did during the appraisal and the inspection process, the inspection yielded there's not proper support in the garage. And so we were going to, in addition to the window siding, roof, also do proper supporting in the garage. Then that kind of led us down the road to, well, if we're going this far, maybe we do an upgrade to the house entirely.
Did you have the home built, or was it an existing build when you?
It was existing.
You know when the home was first built?
I don't know, it's been at least 2 upgrades. I mean, we were told that this was the Sea Ray house. If you look at the older Sea Ray brochures, you'll see our property being listed. And at that time, there was no sunroom area off the right-hand side there, and it was very, very rustic looking, a very dark wood, cabinish look. So it's been upgraded at least once, possibly twice since we received it.
Thank you.
The purpose of this board is to grant variances.
Correct.
To qualify for a variance, you have to show a practical difficulty under law. The existing structure being a non-conforming on an oddly shaped lot, the oddly shaped lot, you might have something going there, but I'm struggling trying to find a real practical difficulty in this, because the home is in existence, it's doing its function now. Yes, you have some maintenance and some upkeep that you gotta do, but what is the true practical difficulty that you're experiencing with this? Because as I'm looking at this, the existing structure being non-conforming, well, it's obviously either been granted variances or was conforming at some point in time.
I guess you might be able to correct me on this, as it stands today, the garage is being grandfathered in. So the garage, if we were to start over and we had to build this from scratch, that garage, if we built it like that, we would need variances. So right off the get-go, we're already, needing a variance. So in the unique situation where we're at the end of the road and the way it cuts through kind of the property, we have no front yard, none whatsoever.
Okay, so you have a unique situation in the topographic of that particular lot that doesn't allow. Okay, thank you.
All right.
Do you anticipate being still in that house 5 years from now?
Till we die. So, yeah,
Okay.
yes, to answer your
Thank you.
question, yes.
one short piece of correspondence from, I'm going to say Alan Pick, because I don't have a better run at it. Dear Zoning Board of Appeals or Orion Zoning Board, we have no objection to the variances requested by the Prebays. We appreciate our neighbors who are looking to improve their homes. Alan and Debbie Pick at 135 Chamberlain. So you have one in favor.
There's also another email that was sent probably an hour ago from our neighbor that's immediately to the left of us, from Bob Wade, and he basically says the same thing as well. So it's actually to Lynn.
Sent to Lynn Harrison.
Yeah, it was sent to Lynn, which I can forward along. Yeah,
They're the one directly,
yeah, yes, correct. They're,
the house directly to the north.
Mr. Chairman? We also have a note here from the fire department. The fire department has reviewed the proposed document, has no concerns at this time. With that, if the variance is denied for 101 Premier Drive, the fire department must receive notification if they are denied. It is the fire department's understanding that they will most likely result in a fire code violation in the near future. That's your, why is that in with your pack? Sorry,
now, wait a second now.
sorry.
Just mind your own business back.
Yeah. Then let me check that pack and see if we got the fire code, the fire department on your side.
That went sideways real quick, but,
Let's see. That's probably,
So while.
here it is.
Oh, there you go.
No, it's the same exact one.
Yeah.
They gave us the same one on both of them, so I don't know if the fire department has a problem with it or not.
Mr. Goodlow might have some things that could help us. Please.
Granted, the variance, it being within 5 feet of the property line, it would require a 1-hour radius assembly. You have an inside outside of that wall, so it actually would improve the safety of the property, which currently does not. And with these homes that are doing it, it would be so. But that said, give you a lot of time to occupy a house. So it is an upgrade to the safety factor, but they're allowed to.
In addition to that, if the existing garage walls, if we're capable of going over top of those, we will maintain them. I suspect highly that we will not be able to, in which case we will pull that north property line back to 6 feet off the property line, so we would be improving it even more.
So if you have to take that wall out, you will not be putting it back in the same spot?
Correct, we would pull it about another 1.5 feet off of the property line.
Good to know, thank you.
Is it correct that the current square footage is 955 square feet?
approximately,
Yes, the main floor, livable area, not including the garage.
Does it have a second floor currently?
yes, that would be the two combined. the
Correct.
Square footage.
What's the square footage there?
That would be the total 1950 for the two, for the upstairs and downstairs.
1950, okay.
So as it stands, it's not a very large house in comparison to most of them around the lake. And really, they're just looking to add a master suite. That's what they're trying to do. And convert one of the smaller bedrooms into a guest bedroom or a child's bedroom.
Looking at your plan, your wife will love you if you get this walk-in closet for her. You cannot show my wife these plans.
Even with the addition, the house will not be, I mean, there's no basement here. So you need additional storage, a little bit larger garage for all your lake toys, all that type of thing. So it's not going to be a huge house even once we're all said and done with it.
complicated, especially one with this many moving parts, so it's gonna take a bit.
Is there any questions that I can answer?
We have plenty of questions. We used to have that many answers.
If my math is correct, it looks like that if you get this variance and you build, you're looking at, including the garage house and the proposed house, being about 2,200 square feet. 2,231 is the number I came up with. Does that seem correct to you?
So the existing and new, correct?
The existing house with the proposed garage.
Correct. Or the
Okay.
room over the garage, correct?
Right, okay. We really don't have much room to do anything else anyway. Anything else, Tony, before I try to tackle this thing?
So the solar room and the deck are two separate structures?
The solar room is attached to the house.
Okay.
Yes, there's access from the house into that. And then the deck would be additional.
The reason it's taking me is I'm back to the practical difficulty part. That's why this is taking a second, because we have certain standards we're trying to meet on this, and I'm having trouble getting there, so that's all.
There's just a lot of stuff that a lot of things that need to be replaced. There's the current decking that's, comes up.
I'm just one person on the board, that's all.
To give you an idea, I mean, we look, it's sitting on all our screens. It's a standard for granting a non-use variance. The variance may be granted by the zoning board of appeals only in the case where the applicant can demonstrate that a practical difficulty exists on the property. The Michigan Court of Appeals has applied the following principles in court cases for dimensional variances which collectively provide for that practical difficulty. And the big thing is, does it prevent the property owner from using the property for general purpose? That's one of several. Does it restrict, I'll just read it. Does the request of the variance is the minimum variance necessary, granting the variance which the variance would be consistent with the spirit of the zoning ordinance, general health, safety, and welfare, and is fair to adjacent properties? Is there a way to accomplish that same purpose without these variances? And 3, that the variance is needed due to unique circumstances or physical characteristics of the land involved, and that the uniqueness, if I can speak, is not shared by neighboring properties in the same zone, such as narrowness, shallowness, shape, topography. It should not be due to the applicant's personal or economic difficulties. And the last one is, the need for the requested variance is not self-created. So we have to meet all those requirements in order to grant it. And one of the problems is, for me, is I'm looking at it is this self-created? Well, you bought the home a number of years ago. Yes, it's got some issues that you would like to improve, and I commend you for wanting to improve it. But I learned when I first got on this board that anytime we grant a variance, we're basically granting you the right to break the law, legally. And that's how serious the Court of Appeals looks at this. So we've got to meet those 4 criteria, and that's, I think, what several of us are having difficulty trying to balance and figure out right now.
Well, like I said, the garage as it stands, where everything seems to pivot for variances, right now, as it stands, it is not within variance.
Correct.
And so we're grandfathered in right now, but as soon as we touch that, that's a problem. So
Exactly.
if something happened where the garage became damaged and we'd had to do something, we'd still be up here doing the same thing. So
Mr. Goodloe, have any variances to your knowledge been granted on this property in the past? And unfortunately for you and for a lot of the folks on the lake, these lots were not designed for homes. They were designed for summer cottages back in the day.
I mean, that sunroom was definitely an add-on.
Oh, I have no doubt, and the codes and ordinances change over time.
Okay, I was gonna say there probably was a variance back then. I don't know, but maybe you're right. Maybe there wasn't in existence, but.
Right.
Is it your belief that as it sits right now, the garage is structurally sound?
No.
Not even close.
Okay.
We were told by the inspector that we needed several support beams in there because they're not spanned properly.
Would it take a variance to build it back?
Yes.
Yes, it would. If you demolish what's
Definitely.
there, you have to get a variance to even replace what was existing.
If we
You're
tore it
asking
down,
him.
if we tore it down, Dave, if they tore down to rebuild exactly what they have, would they require variances?
Depends usually close to a monetary value at that point, 50% or more of the structure. Obviously, when the building department, we like things safe. So, something for repairs, we need to kind of figure it out. But, we want to stay. Tear it down, it's 50% of the house value. So that'd be a question of can more or less, but that's kind of how we look at it. If we're improving the structure, making it safe and not increasing the non-conformity, that's where we have.
Problem is if they build that garage, that, on top of it, they're increasing it.
Yes, no, that's not increasing the non-conformity, no, they're not exactly increasing, they're just,
They're utilizing it.
yes.
Okay.
I have a question, you were back about the firewall you talked about?
Yeah.
Tell me more about that.
Fire rate assembly, basically you have currently it's just siding, foam, it doesn't have a rated assembly. A fire rated assembly means that it can burn for 1 hour before it actually compromises the wall. Usually you get some, some of that made in the fire rate.
Double 5/8.
Exterior and interior, so interior and exterior, so how the fire department interior gets it out. Protects neighboring properties from being within 5 feet of the property.
So the sheeting on the outside is also fire rated?
Yes.
It's not just like a double 5/8 inside?
It's, I can't tell you what it is, because they're gonna have to pick a fire rated assembly, there's so many, so that they can
Some intumescent materials are going to have to be used to protect the fire from propagating to the next property.
How many bedrooms does the home have now?
Three.
And it will have one more if you.
Correct.
So what I believe I'm hearing is that the garage is neither safe structurally sound or safe to a large degree as it sits right now. And if you did take it down and build it back, you would need a variance of some type, possibly, to do so.
When I had conversations with Lynn Harrison at the township, she said that if we took it down, we would have to go back for a variance for that.
So that describes to me the sound of a practical difficulty. But that you're not just looking at the garage, you're looking at other things too. I guess anything that you can think of that might help us, now's the time.
Well, it's an existing non-conforming. Honestly, I've never gone before a board that hasn't permitted this situation before, and I've been through quite a few of these where we're going over an existing non-conforming structure. I realize that's not setting a precedence for you guys, but that's just my experience. Again, the existing condition of the garage poses a problem. As I said, we fully expect that we're not going to be able to utilize that north wall of the garage, and that being the case, we will pull it in 17 to 18 inches, so we will be 6 feet off the property line at that very front corner.
Chair,
Mr. Walker,
I'm ready to make a motion.
we have any additional discussion by the board? There will be an opportunity after the motion is made. Please, Mr. Walker.
In the matter of ZBA case AB 202422, Scott Prebay, 135 Laketon Court, Sidwell 0903452-048, I move that the petitioner's request for a variance from zoning ordinance number 78, zoned R3, Article 6, Section 604, an 18.2-foot front yard setback variance from the required 30-foot for a covered porch to be 11.8 feet from the property line roadside, and also the request of AB 202422, Scott Prebay, 135 Laketon Court. I move that the request of his variance from zoning ordinance 78, zoned R3, a 16.28 front setback variance for the required 30-foot for a second floor addition and attached a garage be 13.72 feet from the front property line roadside. And in the matter of ZBA AB 202422, Scott Prebay, for the third variance from zoning ordinance 78, zoned R3, Article 6, Section 604, a 5.12 side yard setback variance from the required 10-foot for the second floor addition and attached garage to be 4.9 feet from the property line north, be granted, plan stamped, received June 7, 2004, because the petitioner did demonstrate that the following standards of variances have been met in this case. And I included those three, I'm sure I'm supposed to be doing three separate motions on these variants, but because of the complexity of this case, I'm going to try to do it all in one and incorporate my rationale for all three of them in the reasoning and showing the practical difficulty en masse of rather than each of them individual. Maybe because I'm not an engineer or an architect and don't understand half this stuff. But in my opinion, at least, that the strict compliance with the regulations governing dimensional requirements would unreasonably prevent the property owner from using the property for omitted purpose if the variance was not granted, or by upholding the dimensions required, it would be excessively burdensome to the development of the property. This property is very unique shaped. It's been in existence a long time. The garage, many of these things were probably passed before variants were even needed for the initial construction and additional construction during the course of the ownership of the property. And also, the requested variance is, in my opinion, the minimum variance necessary. There's a number of avenues to look at, the lakeside, the roadside, the north side, and the south side. And granting this variance would be consistent with the spirit of the zoning ordinance, and is fair to adjacent properties. I don't believe there's another way to accomplish these purposes. The petitioner has indicated that the existing garage is not safe. It's going to be rebuilt one way or the other anyway. So therefore, as a safety hazard, to encourage the new construction of the garage, I think is very important. And this variance is needed due to the unique circumstances and physical characteristics of the land involved, and the uniqueness is not shared by neighboring properties. There were letters from neighbors that encourage this. This is, again, something I have not seen a lot, because normally we're trying to, as a trustee Flood uses the expression of trying to put a size 12 foot into a size 10 shoe. That's not what we're doing here. We're trying to increase the value to the petitioner, increase the value to the property, and this uniqueness of this property is not shared by similar properties, again, because of its shape. I don't believe that this variance is not self-created, because these things are here. The owner, these variances are relatively small in size and tend to increase the value of the property, and for these reasons, I feel we should grant the petitioner's request.
Discussion. Just a minor thing, on item number 3, you said a 5.12. The correction is to 5.21.
Dyslexia must have jumped. I will amend my motion to whatever you said.
Okay.
Anything additional by the board? Hearing none, we have a motion on the floor by Mr. Walker with support by Mrs. Danaskis. No further discussion, please call the roll.
Tony Cook,
No.
Diane Janowski, yes. Tony Kirby,
Yes.
John Walker,
Yes.
Dan Durham.
Yes. Your motion passes, you're good to go.
Thank you for your consideration.
You're welcome. Next up, we have AB 2024-23, Andrew Russo from apparently Baca Systems at 101 Premier Drive, Sidwell 09-35-451-001. Applicant is seeking to amend the variance expiration date of 8/2/24 for the variances originally granted on 8/2/22 to run with the land for the following 2 variances. Article 27, Section, not 27, 18, Section 18.03, I-1-2, a variance to allow a covered trash receptacle dumpster to be located in the side yard rather than the rear yard required. Number 2 is a variance to omit the required masonry brick type walls and the opaque lockable gate around the dumpster. And the applicant is seeking to amend the expiration date of 8/22/24 for variances originally granted 8/22/22 for the following variances to be extended until the applicant no longer occupies the property. Article 27, Section 27.19B2, 3, and 4. Third variance is a variance to allow accessory outdoor storage to be located in the side yard east rather than the required rear yard. And number 4, a variance to omit the required 8-foot chain link fencing and screening around the accessory outdoor storage. Introduce yourself, please.
Hello, hi, I am Andrew Russo, representing Baca Systems, 101 Premier Drive.
Okay. You got these, and you just want to continue them because you had thought, if I'm correct, if I'm not, please correct me, you had thought you would no longer be doing business there, but now you are, and you want to keep the variances while you're there.
Correct, yeah. And originally, we had intended to move to a different property. However, economic conditions have changed to where we are intending to stay in that building for at least a few more years, just based on where the economy is and as a business, staying there rather than trying to move. We don't have a need to be going into a very much larger building, nor could we financially make it feasible to go build even the same size building and occupy it. So we'd like to stay in the same building that we're at, and we're pretty much asking. Last meeting, when we were here before, we couldn't adjust what was requested, even though it was kind of brought up the idea maybe we should just be applying for the length of us as the tenant, but we could not adjust it because of what was published in the newspaper as the variance that was being requested. And it was recommended that when we come back in the following year before it expires, to make the request of it being extended through us being the tenant in the building for the one with the, for the garbage receptacle, and then the outdoor storage would be within us being the tenant, because the garbage receptacle is a problem that's gonna exist regardless of who is in the building, given the fact that there's literally no rear yard, as we've looked at in the maps, and I could show you, again. But the side with the outdoor storage would be for us being the tenant in the building, I believe.
For the sake of clarity and the record, please look at the 4 variances requested. Tell me which ones will move on when you do and which ones will stay, just so we all know.
Yep, so it would be, the ones that would run with the land would be a variance for the trash receptacle and the fencing around it, because it's not practical to put fencing around it, and it also creates a fire hazard of having a trash receptacle, like a compactor, up against a building, with then enclosing it in a fencing and a masonry wall, because that would, if there's a fire in the compactor, it will burn until it goes and your whole side of the building is on fire, which makes it a lot harder to fight. Then the outdoor storage would be for us until we are no longer the tenant of the property.
You know why they want an enclosure and screening around the compactor, right?
Generally, it's for looks, for the
What it's for.
exterior looks. However, with where it's at on the side of the building, and the fact that it's in an industrial, I'm gonna call it a pseudo-industrial area, that was why I think in the past it was agreed that it wouldn't really even make sense to have it there for looks.
So 1 and 2 will be running with the land. 3 and 4 will move on when you do.
Correct.
Thank you. Board members.
Yes, Mr. Chair. Have there been any issues in the past 2 years?
I am unaware of a single issue. All of our, I'm not gonna say the whole Premier Drive community, I'm gonna say the lower half that does not represent the 3 businesses at the top that will remain unnamed, because we do not like what we've got, what we've inherited up above. But the bottom half is all a really happy group of businesses, and no one's had any issues at all. Other than the traffic from the top half, we're not thrilled about that.
This is about the business itself. I know before you were saying that you had remote employees, and at that time you were around 76. Where are you guys now?
Right now, we sit probably around 65, so we've lost about 10 employees. Nothing has been done in terms of like layoffs or anything like that. It's just natural attrition that's happened as we've kind of adjusted the business. We're trying to shift into more of a strategic focus of how do we do what we're really good at, and also look at staying lean rather than growing uncontrollably into areas that are new ventures that realistically we cannot competitively differentiate in.
Then you referenced the dumpster and fires. It's my understanding that most of the material that's going to be in there is scrap marble? Is that the case? Or
So inside of the There's two different dumpsters. One is the compactor, which is general, I'm gonna call it household, like general waste. So that's cardboard, plastics, just food, that kind of stuff. And then the other one is generally marble and then also like wooden pallets and stuff like that, because you can't really put wooden pallets in the compactor. The landfill does not exactly like when that happens because getting it out is not easy for them. We've learned after some nice emails they gave us about it.
Cutting into their profits.
Oh, no,
Oh, they sell the pallets separately.
oh, they do?
You can actually get people to pick them up. You don't
Okay.
have to put them in landfills.
So there's two sets of it. One, the pallets generally we're reusing, but we have these wooden A-frames that stone will come on though. And those are generally one-time use, and there's a safety thing with them of once they're used, they get water on them or like that, they can warp, and you don't wanna put stone on them, so those ones kind of have to get thrown away, but for the most part, when we get pallets, we hold on to them for a couple days, and then they go back out with new stuff that we built on them.
Mr. Chairman, I remember this case. And one of the things that I do remember in our discussion was, and I believe it was Mr. Flood, said that this was definitely a permanent solution, or temporary solution, not a permanent solution. So the fact that it's coming back and they're asking for it to be a more permanent solution, I think we have to seriously look at what the intent of the variances that we granted in the past were, and whether or not this is good for the township to grant it as a permanent.
Understood. How is this different than the last time you were here?
Practically, it's the same, or it's the same thing. It's a matter of the blaster was for 1 year, and that we couldn't change the request at the current one. And I believe last year, the only difference last year is that it had lapsed by 1 month from when we were able to get scheduled for the ZBA to come here versus the end of the original variance. So technically, last year was not an extension, it was a new request because we had gone right past the 12 months. This time I went in early. We are here. I scheduled it in June, and I made this meeting happen because I think there would not have been a meeting because you have to have 3 to have it. So she was able to get us in this meeting because I guess I sent the email. She's like, well, we need a third, and we have the deadline of today. So could you get us a check and be here? I can show the map if you want. And
You speak of a compactor, is it on a cement pad?
the compactor is not. It's on asphalt parking lot, like the asphalt there.
So would it be a problem, and nobody might be thinking this way, but if somebody was thinking, why don't we make the first 2 contingent on the current occupancy too? Would that be a problem? I mean, would the next tenant have a lot of deconstruction and move of heavy stuff to do? If that's what the board decided they wanted to do.
It wouldn't be a problem realistically from our standpoint. The question would be the next tenant of the building, given that it's more of an industrial building. Realistically, many industrial buildings that are that have that size of a warehouse space are not able to just use what is the same dumpster size, which is like the flip back style that is what they put at a McDonald's. A large industrial company will produce more waste than that can even hold. So they're probably gonna be in a similar situation, but I guess I don't wanna say it's their problem to come back here, but yeah.
So in your company's position, it wouldn't negatively affect you at all if all 4 of these were sunset to when you left them?
It wouldn't impact us, but the next people would probably, at least for the first 2, be in a very similar spot, but for us.
Mr. Chairman. Yeah, one of my difficulties with kind of granting this as a kind of with a sunsetting clause to it is the fact that over time, people see something being used, and then the owner of the property brings in the next tenant, and they assume that that's okay to do that, as opposed to having this renewed on an annual basis. While it is I'll call it a hassle to come back, it's something that I think keeps our records clear, as opposed to making it a long-term solution. Because currently your lease is how long? Did you have you renewed?
So right now, I don't know that I know the exact answer. I know that we had an upcoming, there was a 3-year option, not.
No, you said you had one more
It's-
option.
Yeah, so we had one last option. I believe that came to fruition in the last, 20 days. I don't know the exact details of what was even decided there, other than that, obviously, since we haven't started moving out, there's no way for us to leave the building
Well, we don't want you to.
in that.
We want you to stay in Orion.
So, yeah, the only thing I would say to that, even coming back, it practically, if we were to be leaving, it doesn't change that if hypothetically someone was touring new tenants in the building, the stuff's, the garbage, the dumpster's still there, even if we were coming back annually.
Is there another practical location for a dumpster?
No, I don't know if you can see my screen, I'm sharing, if it shows up on. See if technology likes us today. Praying this way. Okay.
So
There we go.
I guess from my point of view, if there is no other practical solution for a dumpster, then I guess I wouldn't see the advantage of limiting the time limit on this, because it wouldn't change for a new tenant unless there is something we're not seeing, there is a practical.
The only,
One of the issues is they cannot use a standard flip-top dumpster because of the weight. The trucks cannot lift it up. They have to use a roll-off dumpster. So that changes the dynamics. If they had a flip-top, they could abide by all the codes on that. But if I'm remembering correctly from
Yeah.
a couple years ago.
yeah, that's one of the considerations. The other thing is that from a practical standpoint, if you were using a flip-top dumpster, the amount of times you would have them there almost daily emptying a flip-top dumpster, because the amount of refuse that you put in a flip-top dumpster versus can go in a compactor where it's consistently just pushing it forward. And then when it goes to the land, it's like that you would have someone emptying it almost daily, which is not very practical overall. But if you see right here, there is a dumpster spot. So it's for what is a flip-top dumpster that's there. Right now, we just have some of the pallets, like you were mentioning, of that just when the stuff gets delivered, okay, pallets kind of go in there, and then we ship stuff back out on them, just because the spot's there, but it's not super practical. I think any company that's doing manufacturing, when you have, this is effectively right there, to the left is everything here is office, and then everything from where my cursor is to the right is manufacturing. So to think that you're gonna be doing any manufacturing and assembling of anything, of doing high-tech stuff, and then I don't see how it's super practical for other tenants, but, which is probably also indicated by, I think Sudan was the original plastics company that was there, then it went to, I think they might have renamed, and then they went out of business or something like that happened, and they had a compactor there at that time, so every company that's, I guess, been in the building has had the same problem.
If I recall correctly from the minutes and everything else, you did approach the fire department a couple years ago about fencing off that roll-off, and they said absolutely not.
Yeah, so, the fire department's concern was the FDC and the access to it. When we looked at drawing it out of where the fire lane would be, essentially it was determined that there is enough room when it's up against the thing, but if you did fence it off, then there could be a bigger concern. One was if you put fencing in it, it makes you narrow it by roughly about another 3 feet, because you have to have at least 1.5 feet on the inside, and then you're gonna have to have bollards on the outside so that a fire truck or any vehicle doesn't hit that wall. So you reduce the fire lane substantially, and you also are enclosing in what generally garbage fires are a common source of fire. So there was a couple issues there with the fire side of it. So our goal really is increase safety as well as having a usable plan for the exterior of the building. And keeping it looking nice really is our goal.
Kirby, going back to your prior point, this one, if they're denied, the fire department has a problem that it may become a fire code violation. Correct.
Forgot to mention that part. I am aware. And that's what it looks like currently. If we're curious of the exterior of the building. So dumpsters, there's the outdoor storage part, and our Lapeer Road stuff, so.
Well, I will say you guys keep it neat.
Our guys have been working really hard on it. It's one thing that we've been pushing for is like, as we beyond lean, is operational excellence. One of the things that are on like the performance plan for the people who are in the back is they're required of the outdoor, doing weekly walkthroughs of the entire exterior. Because that's kind of one of the big areas that we're trying to do is promote everything, rather than focusing on how do we grow and how do we increase revenue, it's how do we scalably grow in a way that we can actually deliver well and maintain a really strong foundation for a company. We're thinking about putting a house on top of the dumpsters, potentially. Just a house structure on top of the dumpsters, if we want it, in the future. Just kidding. No house on top of the dumpsters.
Not the time to joke.
That's a future variance. This is another situation, by the way, of where they built a building without forethought of the fact that you have to have a side dumps, a back receptacle of any sort.
Your operation is pretty well pigeonholed into that space.
Honestly, it's a really good, again, outside of the up part of the street. It's a really it was honestly, when we were there the first years before the whole farms got put in, it was a really great spot, low traffic on the street.
You use the space to its optimum. You probably can't do much more with what you have. You heard the building officials say that you run a clean operation that's basically trouble-free. You employ people and you pay taxes. I mean, all the check boxes are hit. Mr. Kirby.
I'm ready to make a motion, Mr. Chairman.
Anything additional? Please, we can discuss afterwards.
In the ZBA case number AB 202423, Andrew Russo, BACA Systems, 101 Premier Drive, Sidwell, 0935451001. I move that the petitioner's request for 4 variances. First, Article 18, Section 18.03, I-12, a variance to allow a covered trash receptacle dumpster to be located in the side yard rather than the required rear yard. And 2, a variance to omit the required brick masonry brick-type wall and opaque lockable gate around the covered trash receptacle slash dumpster. 3, Article 27, Section 27.19B234, a variance to allow accessory slash outdoor storage to be located in the side yard east rather than the required rear yard. And 4, a variance to omit the required 8-foot chain link fence and screening around the accessory slash storage be granted because the petitioner did demonstrate the following standards for the variance have been met in this case, in that they set forth facts which show that in this case, petitioner does show the following practical difficulty. This practical difficulty is related to the property because of its unique characteristics and is not related to general conditions in the area. 2, the following exceptional or extraordinary circumstances or conditions are applicable to the property involved that they do not apply generally to other properties in the same district or zone. The applicant indicates that because of the shape of the property and the FDC and various other requirements, these variants would be necessary for the preservation and enjoyment of substantial property rights possessed by the others in the same zone or vicinity. 3, the granting of the variance and modification will not be material detrimental to public welfare or materially injure to the property or to the improvements in such zone or district in which the property is located. In addition, one of the terms of granting of these 4 variances will be that they are attached for as long as BACA Systems resides and conducts business at this location. They will terminate upon their leaving of the location.
Is it the motion maker's intention that all 4 will terminate?
All 4 will terminate.
Further discussion? No, Mr. Cook, go ahead.
I'll support.
Okay. Further discussion by the board? Mr. Walker, you have anything? Anything additional? Seeing none, please call the roll.
John Walker.
Yes.
Tony Cook.
No.
Tony Kirby.
Yes.
Diane Banasky, yes. Dan Durham.
No. Motion passes. You got what you came for.
Thank you.
Very welcome. Next up, we have public comment. I imagine you folks are waiting for that. No? Just couldn't make yourself leave, huh? Okay. Okay, we got no other public communication / education, anything? We're still open. What's up?
I'm talking about,
Well, that kind of falls under communication. I don't think we have any open committees. Do we have any member comments?
I'm going to jump on Mr. Walker's neighborhood, but I just want to say that I visited the Orion Public Library today. It is very well done. They redid it. It's doing beautifully.
Glad to hear that.
I did most of it.
I believe you did, sir.
They're an important resource in the community, and it's good that they're back up and running. I want to thank the board, although I have to admit that I was a little mystified by the direction we took to get to some of the destinations we did. But that's just the way it is. That's why there's 5 of us with all the experience we have. Nothing additional. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Support. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We're done. Thank you.